You're listening to Cattails, the podcast of SLC Faculty Local 417, your union connection. Each episode, we bring you real stories from our members, practical tips on your rights, and the kind of information that helps us all move forward.
Welcome to Cattails. I'm your host, Julie White. Before we talk about layoffs, mergers, and what they mean for our campuses, we're starting with a rally in support of education outside the Cornwall offices of MPP Nolan Quinn, who also happens to be the Minister for Colleges and Universities. We'll hear the voices of the people who showed up, those living the consequences of these decisions in real time. Then we'll hear from Local 417 President Christina Decarie on what happened on one of the saddest days in our history. And finally, in today's Member Spotlight, we'll get a glimpse into the in-between, a new book released this month authored by our very own Deanna Davies. Its messages about navigating loss are bound to strike a chord. Let's dig in. On Wednesday, April 29th, people showed up because their MPP hasn't, and because their college system is being pushed past the breaking point.
What I would say to everyone in the system is that, this is a really hard time that we're going through, and they're deliberately trying to demoralize us and make us feel like we don't have any power to fight back. Today was the beginning of demonstrating that we actually do. And for everybody that feels like, maybe it's not worth it or, they're so dejected. I mean, we're all seeing our comrades, our colleagues, losing jobs. We're all stressed beyond belief. But I can tell you this. If we don't fight back, we know the outcome. It will continue to get worse. We have nothing to lose in this. If we do fight, if we stand together and we build that solidarity, we have a chance to fix this thing and turn it around.
That was OPSEU SEFPO President J.P. Hornick on Tuesday, moments after filing an unfair labor practice against the College Employer Council. And the very next day, everything that they warned about showed up on the sidewalk outside of Nolan Quinn's office.
Nolan Quinn, you graduated from SLC in business. You run a business in town. SLC has canceled the business program, and so no one will graduate in Cornwall. We will lose all our junior business people, and you should have been the first one to support this campus and the business program.
Cuts to programs aren't abstract. They're local, they're personal, and they're reshaping entire communities.
Amanda Shaw, president of Local 418. We're all very concerned with the things that are happening in the province and the fact that the Conservative government puts no priority in education. And even though there was a recent funding announcement for colleges and universities, it wasn't anywhere near what we needed it to be. And now with the announcement of the merger between St. Lawrence College and Fleming, it has a renewed sense of concern for the college system as a whole and whether or not this is a one-time thing or if other colleges are going to be in the same boat and what that means for the system. So it's great to be here with our union siblings rallying and getting the message out, and not just for the college system, but also for the education in Ontario as a whole, because it is our future.
And it's not just faculty and support staff raising alarms.
I'm Erica Ben from Local 4106, OPSEU.
I'm Rosalind Blodgett from OPSEU Local 4104 in Kingston.
I'm Jennifer King from OPSEU Local 4104 in Kingston. We are healthcare frontline workers showing up here to show our support for what is happening to the colleges. All of us are college graduates. We have all seen the benefit of college education coming into our workspaces and the importance of seeing students showing up and how it benefits the longevity of our public systems and our workforces by having strong colleges in our communities, in our neighborhoods that we can access for that co-op support and that we then have access to for our children to attend and for the longevity of public health care. These cuts and these mergers have to stop now, and we need Nolan Quinn and Doug Ford to listen and respect public services and the frontline workers. Solidarity.
When frontline healthcare workers are rallying for colleges, you know the crisis is bigger than one sector.
My name's Duncan, and I'm from Algonquin College. I'm personally here today because I think that announcing a merger just shows how brutal they are. The lack of information that they are sharing with us about how things are happening and whatnot is a disservice to the college students. And as for our college students, you can see the services being hindered by these cuts. We're not able to do things as fast as we have before. There's delays, and people are going to hopefully open like human rights cases against the government and win these cases. And I'll support them in any way that I can.
I'm Jay Timms. I work at Algonquin College in the Center for Accessible Learning on a sub-team called AT Services. I feel like we've been underfunded for far too long. I've been in the system I've been staff 26 years and a student before that at the college. I liked it so much that I started to work there, and I was proud to work there. But the way things are being cut, you can't do your job the same as you used to, and you don't feel good about it. This is my life's work, and I watch it change. And I never expected to see things get worse. I'm working disability services. There's always that movement to move the bar forward and become more accessible. And this just can't happen. And it's going across all services. One of the biggest impacts I've had, I've been going to too many layoff meetings. More than one is too many, and it's every week. And there's nothing I can do except talk to someone ahead of time just to help them feel better. And after they get whatever news, they're still in shock. That's it. There's not much more we can do. They have to make their decision, and that's because of underfunding.
What I'm finding too is that the college themselves don't seem to care about the staff or how they're operating, and they're completely ignoring the contract. That labor practice that happened yesterday is because once again they've ignored the contracts, and that's not going to work for us. We're going to fight back.
Cuts aren't numbers on a spreadsheet. They're people, they're services, they're the future of public education.
I'm the Vice President for the SLC Faculty Tri-Campus. Thank you very much for coming. I'm going to start this off by just giving a little bit of an introduction of why I'm involved. I've been involved with the union for about 25 plus years. I'm an ONA member. I've been a QP member. I've been a steel worker. I've been OPSEU, again, for 25 years plus. The system is not the same as what it was when I started. And I want my kids to have the same education, the same future that I was very lucky and privileged to have. My parents worked very hard. We were not rich, but they put a roof over our head. We had food. I had everything I ever needed and more, but we couldn't have afforded to send me to another community. I needed to stay in my own community. I drove 45 minutes, sometimes without heat in my car because I forgot to get it fixed or didn't have the money. But at the same time, I took nursing. I'm a double alumni graduate from St. Lawrence College with my nursing diploma as well as my critical care diploma. I'm proud of that. Shame on the province for robbing our children's future out of their hands. They have underfunded, chronically underfunded. They just keep taking. Every domestic student right now, we take a loss. Why? We're not supposed to be able to make profit, but we're also not supposed to be able to not afford to put the lights on and keep heat in the building. That's why they went to international students. We are lucky to learn from our international students and the culture that they bring. They enrich our community. But we cannot exploit them. It has to be fair, funding, transparent, and give them what they're paying for. Myself, I worked in my community. I worked in laundry and housekeeping in a nursing home. That paid for my parking. That paid for me to go to school. I contributed back the whole time I was in school. Our communities need that level of return. Then I stayed and worked as a nurse in the variety of long-term care, acute care community. That's what we want. We just want to provide a future. And if education is gone, it's like healthcare. They've made it so bad that people are willing to accept private surgeries because they can't get the surgery that they desperately need. No more cuts. No more cuts. No more spin. No more spin. Do your job, Nolan Quinn. Do your job, Nolan Quinn. No more cuts. No more spin. Do your job, Nolan Quinn. And he is a graduate of St. Lawrence College, so he should be ashamed. I'm ashamed that he's a graduate. And give it back. Give it back. Give back the education that we taught you and make sure it's improving, not depleting the resources available to the communities. Okay? He's not here. We knocked on the door. We didn't break any laws. We knocked on the door. It says open to the public. So I'm going to turn the mic over to Christine Kelsey from our college support. and she's also the chair of the Support Divisional Executive. It's time for this province to take public education seriously. They are starving the system from kindergarten right through to post-secondary education. They announced not very long ago that there was this record-breaking investment in colleges, but it was a bait and switch. What they did was take the money that they were giving to students for grants, and now they're paying those in loans. So the students also have a higher tuition rate than they had before, which means the money that they say they're investing in college education now is actually being paid on the backs of our students in this province. It's time for this government to invest in public education. There is not a business or a public service in this province that doesn't have a college grad working at it. Doug Ford says that he's open for business, but we can't have a thriving economy in this province without public education and without funding for our students, so that we can have people who can work their way out of poverty and contribute back to the province. So I'm looking at everybody and I'm saying that we need to get together and we have to stand together and stop this nonsense that's happening with funding in our province. The merger of Fleming and St. Lawrence colleges is just the beginning. It's the beginning of the destruction of our system, the beginning of losing of colleges in our small communities. It's the start. This is not the end. This is the start of what's happening. So we need to fight back now.
But the person who needed to hear all of this, nowhere to be found.
So we're here at Nolan Quinn's office. Not only is Minister Quinn not here and available to speak with us, but it appears no staff are available. The office is dark. It very clearly says it's open to the public. We are within the hours of 8:30 or 4:30 on a Wednesday afternoon, and nobody is here to answer us. So where do we go to get questions? We are constituents. We are members of the community, members of the community, constituents of his riding. All levels of education. So where do we go to get answers to our questions?
He's afraid to talk to us. Oh, yes, absolutely. He's afraid to face the people who vote in his riding. Yeah. We've been waiting for a meeting since October. Early October. Been waiting for a meeting with Nolan Quinn since early October, and we did have one. And we are his constituents in his riding.
The questions that we have are legitimate questions that need answers. We're not unreasonable. We're not unruly. We simply are looking for transparent and accountable decision making, which we're clearly not going to get here today.
So if the MPP, who's also the Minister for Colleges and Universities, won't answer questions, the people most effective will.
Hi, so my name's Jack Peets. I'm a third year going into fourth year Bachelor of Science nursing student at St. Lawrence College in the Cornwall campus. My dad actually is part of OPSEU, and he sent me the notice and the event information about this going on. I'm like, I need to be out there. I can see clear as day what is going on in our schools. In the Cornwall campus, I've seen we lost our librarian. We've lost our library. We have vending machines with books in them that are just, it's laughable. And I can see the students around me. I see them struggling. I know this one international student, he's here and he is paying an arm and a leg to be a nurse. He doesn't qualify for the Learn and Stay grant, which many of us do, so he can't afford that. And a lot of people can't afford it. New people coming into this program or any program at our school are not going to be able to afford it. Like with these OSAP changes, the increase in tuition costs, it's things like these that it really is frustrating for me as a student to see. I've seen it throughout my entire college education. I'm seeing it now. It's just getting worse. I feel like I can't just sit by and do nothing.
Okay. You mentioned the OSAP cuts. That's a huge thing.
Yeah, it's a really big thing for me. Like they unfroze the tuition, which is a thing in itself, but also these changes, the ratio for grant to loan is a really big deal for me and a lot of my peers at the school. Like it does still provide us with funding, but this is such a deterrent for new students coming in. I knew a couple years ago when I was graduating high school, I had a friend who wasn't sure if she was going to go to college because she was afraid to take on that burden of a loan. Then we'll have students, even more students, having this fear of loans. They're going to not go to post-secondary just because there's going to be this burden afterwards. We're going from, what was it? 85% grants, right? And now it's completely flipped. We're 70% loan and 30% grant. Insane. People are going to be absolutely swamped in debt if they come out. For me, I'm actually in a very fortunate position. The Learn and Stay grant offered by the government does fund my education, but there are a lot of people who don't qualify for that. And this is just for the I don't know which healthcare studies it's for, but I know for the Bachelor of Science nursing, it definitely applies. Any other program, they don't have that opportunity. They're still going to be paying. So although I am in a very fortunate situation where I am covered by this grant, there are a lot of people out there who are not as fortunate and they will be taking on a lot of debt for this. My family and we live in Ingleside, which is about a 25-minute drive to campus. So again, I'm very fortunate that I live nearby, so I'm able to save money on transport. Like I drive in. If I was anywhere else, like if I had to go to school in Ottawa, that would be such a huge cost for me, an arm and a leg. I can't even imagine how I would be able to do that.
Okay. When you registered to go to St. Lawrence College at the start, did you ever think that by the time you hit your fourth year, you'd be talking about a college that doesn't have a library, a college that doesn't have a bookstore, a college that, all of a sudden is merged with another college, a good probably 5-6 hours away?
Yeah, no, I did not even consider that at all. I knew that there were changes going on. I knew that our healthcare system was really struggling with what the funding that's being provided, the lack thereof. And so I came into this thinking that, I was just gonna go through, get my degree, and I'll be on my way. This was not a huge concern of mine. My grades were a concern, not whether or not my school would close. And as the years went on, I'm seeing these changes go further and further. I saw the that efficiency report that was leaked, and I was just in awe of that. Like I could not believe what I was seeing with those numbers.
You must
Yeah.
be very aware as a student. Like, do the people that you're going to school with, do your classroom, your colleagues, are they aware of what's happening?
I am afraid to say I don't think so. Like I have tried to have some conversations with some of my students, but it's a bit talking about these kinds of political sentiments are, for some reason, it is taboo. So it's hard to bring these things up with them. And we're in Cornwall, we're pretty blue here. So it's these conversations are also not easy. It's hard to find out if people are even if they're going to listen to you at all. So I have talked about, these OSAP changes. I've talked about the strike. We had a strike in front of our school and people didn't know what was going on. People didn't know what they were actually striking for. So there's just a massive gap in understanding for these students.
And the cuts, they don't stop at the academics.
I'm Ryan VanDyl. I'm with Local 418 part-time support staff. I'm also with Local 417, St. Lawrence part-time faculty. I think we need to have a presence and be seen and make it heard that what's happening is not going to be accepted without some conversations, without consulting with our groups. And I think the more awareness that we can spread to the public and other people that we work with, the more of an impact that can have, right? Because our students that we're training are the next group out in the workforce in so many different areas, right? All these cuts, all the merger talk, it's just reducing the programs, reducing the access that people can have to that quality education close to home. And we're not going to have the solid workforce that's needed in schools and in healthcare and trades in so many areas. I've been coaching the varsity cross country team for over 10 years at St. Lawrence, and we have 3 campuses. So we're not just a one campus team. And this past season, our team was cut, as well as all of the tournament sports at the college, which include cross country, golf, badminton, cricket, and hockey. So just all cut. A lot of the students, this is an outlet for them that it enhances their student experience. It makes them a better student, not just being an athlete. And I think all the sports that are cut are a lot of the quiet sports too, right? And having that outlet taken away, especially for returning students that have been training for years to qualify for nationals, especially for our cross country team. We've had success sending someone to nationals every year. Last year, before that, we had the full women's team qualify for nationals. So it's not for lack of being successful, like they try to spin some of the programs or the cost of certain things, right? Yeah. So it's really demotivated a lot of people. And just speaking from cross country's perspective, we've had athletes that have continued to train that have just stopped training now. Because this has been ripped away, and seeing that it's still something that's going on within the Ontario College Athletic Association, it just makes it that much harder. And especially as the fall seasons come around again, you see your friends, your teammates that are going off somewhere and they're training, and we don't have those opportunities. And you need those opportunities for the small little guys at the college. Thinking about new students coming in, I've had people reach out to me that find out that I've been the coach, and they're like, what's the perspective of the teams coming back? And the perspective isn't there. It's not coming back. It's not the level and the community, the teamwork that that college experience could have been, right? You can almost equate it to similar experience to like COVID, just canceling everything. So it's similar with that level of cut for our college sports and programs and everything, right?
So standing at the side of a street and hearing cheers today was a little bit different for you.
Yeah, it's great to get more exposure and just waving and sharing our signs. I think people were definitely looking and waving and honking, and not just our local union groups, but we had other groups with us as well, and community members and families, parents, kids, like a whole bunch of things.
And that's the truth of this moment. People are exhausted. People are scared. And many of us are done being quiet. From layoffs to mergers to the erosion of student services, the message is clear. This system is being starved, and the people who keep it running are the ones paying the price. But as JP said, when we stand together, we have a chance to turn this around. What we heard on that sidewalk wasn't just frustration. It was a warning. A system pushed past its limits. On Thursday, St. Lawrence College announced the layoff of a number of faculty and involuntary transfer of more across the Kingston, Brockville, and Cornwall campuses. These cuts land on top of a year of program suspensions, service reductions, the ongoing merger process with Fleming College. So today we're joined by Local 417 President Christina Decarie to help us understand what happened, what it means for faculty and students, and how our community can respond. So Christina, thanks for joining us. Can you start just by walking us through what was announced on Thursday and what we know about the layoffs and involuntary transfers so far?
So on Thursday, April 30th, 28 full-time faculty were told that their positions had been eliminated, and as such, they were being laid off. And a further 15 or 16 faculty were told that that their positions had also been eliminated, but that they were being involuntary transferred either to another program that might seem extremely close to what they already do, so close that it doesn't feel like a change, but sometimes to a program that is radically different than what they're used to teaching in, like a completely different stratosphere of subject matter, or even being transferred to a different campus. Now, I will say that being transferred to another program of study, even if it's in a different stratosphere, does not mean that it's random. The changes were made based on education and experience, but it's still a radical shift for many people.
And those transfers all kind of look different depending on the circumstances. So some folks may be transferred into a permanent position, while others may not be.
Generally, they're being transferred into a permanent position, but I will say nothing is permanent right now. So we are still on shifting sands. So right now we're looking at 13.5% of our full-time complement lost their jobs on Thursday. But if we go back in time about a year, 40% of our support staff lost their positions, 40% of management lost their positions, 40% of our programs have been lost. And we lost a lot of contract faculty. And it's difficult to say how many because that data is not gathered the way other data is, and it changes so quickly. But we're going to be experiencing loss. I would say another 2 years, we'll be experiencing loss of jobs. And that is before we take into account the impact of the coming merger.
Okay. And these decisions, were they expected? Did the timing catch people off guard?
So from the union perspective, we always maintained that we believed it would make the most sense for layoffs to occur between the winter and spring semester. We say that not knowing for sure. So it's important to remember that, yes, the union is involved in the College Employment Stability Committee process, the CESC, but we are not the ones doing the layoffs. It is ultimately not our decision how and when and who these things happen. It's just that we are an integral part of the process. We always maintained that it would make sense to happen when it happened. It doesn't mean that we knew it was going to happen. We have spent the past 16 months trying to get people to think about the possibility of this happening. And I know that a lot of people had been thinking about it, and a lot of people had taken very seriously the possibility that their job would be impacted. I don't think that makes it easier on the day that it happens. Even if somebody was completely ready for it, I still think the emotional impact of being told that your position has been eliminated is devastating. It cuts to the core of our identity and our purpose and our value. And hearing those words is upsetting, regardless of how ready you felt or not.
And the college has certainly maintained that these reductions were as a result of federal policy changes for international students. It looks more like these are a result of the efficiency audit and broader system restructuring. From your perspective, what's really driving these reductions?
This story begins 10 years ago, maybe even longer, with the chronic underfunding of the colleges.
Okay, so the college chose door number 1 with the international students, and now we're moving to door number 2, the mergers.
Yeah.
So how does the merger with Fleming factor into the timing and the scale of these decisions?
I don't know yet. I will say that from my perspective and with the information I have, what we are experiencing right now is still a direct result of the lack of funding, the changes of international student numbers, the efficiency report. But the efficiency report is a direct response to everything else. Like the bottom has fallen out of everything. And the efficiency report is a response to that. And so now we are acting on the efficiency report, but all of it is in response to the bottom falling out of the college system in Ontario.
And I want to talk a little bit more about that human impact. So you've said publicly that students and communities are already feeling the effects. What are you hearing from members right now?
The faculty are devastated and faculty are in shock. And the faculty who have been impacted, I think, are still processing and trying to absorb what has happened. And the faculty who are left behind are also in shock and feeling survivor's guilt. Did I bump somebody without realizing it? How are we going to carry on without, so and so? They might have a colleague that they're very keenly going to feel the absence of. So it's still a lot of shock and trying to absorb what all of this means and what does our college look like moving forward.
All right. So some programs have been suspended that are really deeply tied to workforce needs. Talking about healthcare, community services, trades. What does it mean for the region?
People are going to find it really hard to fill positions that they need filled. And especially, I think about the immediate impact on tourism, restaurants, hospitality, hotels, law clerks. Oh my gosh! Now think about what it was like immediately, like the end days of the pandemic, and immediately post pandemic, and what it was like to try to get a table in a restaurant, or to just businesses had limited hours and limited availability to provide services. And we're going to experience that again.
And the academic cuts are happening alongside major reductions in student services. We're talking about accessibility advising, housing support, closure of libraries. How do these pieces all fit together?
I don't know what it's going to be like to be a student. I mean, if you're coming to college because you think it's going to be all about campus life and community and engagement and mixing with new friends and having new experiences, and then you need help, you need to speak to a librarian because you don't understand how to find the information and the material that you need to find, or you suspect you might have a learning disability and you don't quite know how to navigate that. What does it mean? How do I talk to somebody about that? I don't even know what the words are. Well, there just won't be somebody there. There won't be somebody there. And I will send out a warning cry. Other colleges have already eliminated all of their counseling staff. There are colleges who do not have any counselors whatsoever. The students have an app. I have not heard that will be happening to us. But this is what's happening province-wide.
All right. So we've talked about the pressures not coming out of, nowhere. The Auditor General warned about the over-reliance on international tuition years ago.
Yeah.
The faculty have been warning about it since it started, pretty much. What should they do about it, I guess?
Stop putting your head in the sand.
What responsibility lies with the province and what responsibility lies with college leadership?
It all lies with all of us. We are all citizens of Ontario. We all vote for the people we vote for. We all make demands of the people that we vote for. And I don't know what to say, Julie. I have been saying for years, desperately trying to get people to pay attention to everything that is happening within the college system. And the public doesn't seem to care.
So this really is about the province funding post-secondary education.
Ultimately. I mean, a lot has happened along the way. The story is a complicated one. It's a long and winding road, as they say. But ultimately, the road begins at lack of funding.
Okay. So we saw more than 70 faculty, staff, students, community members rallying in Cornwall this week outside Nolan Quinn's office. What does that tell you about where people are at.
I was really pleased to see those results. I do feel like this is a very good thing. Maybe it's a turning point. I hope it is a turning point.
What we're hearing from Christina is the structural story, the decisions, the timelines, the impact on programs, students, and the people who make this college run. But there's another layer to this moment, the human layer, the part that doesn't show up in spreadsheets or efficiency audits. Because behind every layoff notice is a person navigating uncertainty, responsibility, and the quiet work of holding their life together while the ground shifts under them. And that's where we're going next.
And now it's time for another edition of Member Spotlight.
In this Member Spotlight, we're joined by Local 417 member and author Deanna Davies, whose new book, The In-Between, explores what it means to live through uncertainty, caregiving, and profound change. Deanna received her layoff notice last week, and while this conversation isn't about that decision, it's impossible to ignore the resonance between her writing and the moment we're all living through. The In-Between is a memoir written from inside a year of overlapping losses, her mother entering palliative care, the quiet dissolving of structures she's relied on, and the shifting meaning of leadership when clarity disappears. It's a book about presence, embodiment, and the quiet work of staying human when the ground is moving. Welcome, Deanna.
Thank you very much.
This book was written from inside a year of profound change. What made you decide to write The In-Between while you were still living in it?
I wrote The In-Between because I really wanted to stay present. I recognized that this was one of those years that was coming ahead of me, that I needed to record what was happening. You see, when things get really stressful, there are elements within our body that start failing. And no, it wasn't just my menopausal brain, my midlife brain. What was happening is stress within my body was actually impeding my memory, physical components of my being. So I started to record what was happening to help me to process. I wanted to carry it in real time.
So it really helped you notice what you might have missed if you hadn't been reporting it.
Absolutely. You see, when we come into these moments of uncertainty, there are blank moments. Sometimes we have these conversations with one another, and I think back, my book starts last January during a very stressful period of time, not only personally with myself and my mother. You see, my mother was a single mom, and being raised by a single parent, we were very, very close. And knowing that her palliative state was going to be a journey, at the same time, professionally, things were starting to collapse.
Mhm.
Documenting became important, but then a very dear friend of mine said, Deanna, you're a storyteller. You love to be able to talk. And so when that wasn't available, I started bringing my phone and recording an audio, and that was helpful as well.
Your mom was entering palliative care and your professional life was shifting at the same time. How did you understand your capacity for caregiving and leadership during that period?
You know, as I started to use this lens, what I started to realize is that in my past, leadership meant something very different. But as I studied leadership in my master's, and I taught leadership at the institution. And what I started to realize is that in caregiving, the leadership did not always mean that I had to fix. The leadership meant that I needed to pause, to listen, to sometimes just be present. And my mode was always, I can fix. My mode was always to move forward in leadership. But leadership means so much more than that.
Mhm.
It means, how do you stay with the people? How do you stay and listen to what they need? Not fixing with processes, not fixing to move only forward. What happens if you pause and you remain and you listen? And so that year of the caregiving didn't only apply to my mom. It applied to others that were around me, but applied to myself as well.
And you were studying somatic healing at the same time.
Well, ironically, without knowing what my year had ahead of me, I actually had started doing a certification in somatic healing. And so I interconnected the embodiment, because embodied leadership is not new. But for many, many years, healers were talking about embodied leadership, and the business community was like, oh, that's the woohoo.
So what I started realizing is if we actually put this all together, it's real. We're humans. And when we look at the nervous system, each nervous system reacts differently.
There's a section in your book that's already traveled through our local, the part about silence. Would you read from that chapter?
So this is from When Silence Has a Cost. By late spring, embodiment stops being something I practice quietly. It moves outwards. What I'm learning in my body begins to shape how I speak, how I listen, how I stay present in rooms filled with uncertainty. Not because I plan it that way, but because silence is doing harm, and I can feel it. At work, there's extraordinarily little reassurance. Leadership says almost nothing. Information is sparse. Timelines are vague or absent. Meetings end without clarity. Emails go unanswered. Language becomes very careful, conditional, and non-committal. In the absence of information, people began to scan for tone, for implication, for what is not being said. Fear fills the gaps. Colleagues grow tense, reading between the lines that simply are not there. Conversations tighten. Rumors travel faster than facts. Resumes are quietly updated. People prepare for exits that feel both necessary and premature. The job itself is not the center of my attention. The energy is. I can feel how uncertainty is living in the body, in the workplace, in shallow breath, guarded posture, shortened patience. People brace without realizing it, trying to remain productive while carrying a constant sense of threat. Earlier in my career, I might have named this low morale or change fatigue. Now, I know better. This is nervous system activation, and it matters. Silence is not neutral, empty, or passive. Silence does something. When information disappears and reassurance is withheld, uncertainty becomes embodied. Trust narrows, vigilance increases, and capacity shrinks. This is not failure of resilience. What I've been learning through somatic practice becomes unmistakably clear. When experienced is recognized, energy can be moved. When it is ignored, it tightens. When silence dominates, fear multiplies. This becomes my anchor, not a strategy, a stance. I have spent years teaching leadership and emotional intelligence, helping people to understand communication, self-awareness, and behavior.
What I have not fully explored before is embodiment. How leadership lives in the body. How regulation makes presence possible. It's not abstract. It is immediate. So I began to speak carefully, intentionally about what I am learning, not to provide answers, not to calm people prematurely, but to name what is already happening.
And how do we stay grounded when the external world isn't offering stability?
Our body whispers to us. Our body tells us. And when we're not listening, and we have become so good at this. Shh. I don't have a headache. Shh. I know I need to go for a walk. I'm not going to live. I'm not right now. I'm going to sit at this desk a little bit longer. You see, we've become accustomed to this being normal. But if we stop and we listen, we know what we need. Stop overriding. And this overriding has become normal. And what makes me so sad, and I'm realizing this, and I'm seeing this now, my children are young professionals. And I had an aha moment with one of my children. And I was watching her do. I'm sorry, I get emotional with this one. And I said, you know, you don't have to do it all. Then she looked at me and she said, it's okay, Mommy. I got this. Those are the words that I kept saying to my mom. And my mom told me, you got to stop. You got to pause. And I said, it's okay, I got this. So for each of you, for all of us, there are moments to say, it's okay, I don't got this. I don't have this, I don't got this. And that's the reality. And I hate using that term, but it will kill us. Our mind, our body, our soul.
This past week, you received your notice. How do you hold this moment with everything that you've kind of lived through in the last year?
I'm, doing my best to be present. As I said before, I had already pre-booked this talk. And I literally had 1 hour to get on a train. And I shelved everything. And for 48 hours, I had to be present, knowing everything was happening. My nervous system went into overdrive. But on the way home, I found grounding and my nervous system started to settle. And I cried. I cried from London, Ontario to Kingston, Ontario. And I let it out. I didn't suppress it, and it came in waves. And so for me, it's about being present, understanding what's happening physiologically in my body, psychologically, what's happening in my mind. And I don't know what the future holds, but I do know that our health really does matter. And I can spend time in that in-between of uncertainty. But it's not healing.
Who did you write this book for? And what are you hoping that they're going to feel when they read it?
I wrote this book out of love and out of healing. I wrote this book for all leaders alike that may be feeling but not able to recognize and to notice and to move. I also wrote this book for my mom, a brave, brave woman who had lived a life of uncertainty. And it's not until you have the honor or the privilege, and it's not to say that in a happy way, to sit and listen to somebody that is dying, to recognize how they reflect on their life, how stress played out in sickness, mental health, physical sickness. And in her last few weeks of life, I shared with her that I had been documenting it because my mom didn't document a lot of things in her life, but I witnessed it. I felt it. Our children feel it. So I shared with her pieces. And in the last couple of weeks of her life, she leaned over and she said, "You need to write it and you need to share it." And so for me, this is written out of love and respect of my mom. But this is written for all that may be in that in-between space of uncertainty.
And what would your mom say today?
She would say, "I'm proud of you," and let it go.
Where can people find the in-between?
It has just been released on Amazon. It is also available on Lulu. So you can order it. I have a bulk order that is here. I'm doing my first release at Moro Yoga this weekend. I'm doing a reading and a somatic practice.
Excellent. And if anybody wants to find more information about it, is there a website?
So elevate3.ca is my website. But for anybody that is here, you can reach me anytime. I'm active on LinkedIn, or certainly reach out to me by email as well.
You've been listening to Cat Tales, stories that matter to faculty and beyond. Don't miss an episode. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Visit slcfaculty.ca and stay connected with us on social media.
The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the speakers and guests and do not necessarily reflect the official policies, positions, or statements of OPSEU, SEFPO, St. Lawrence College, or any affiliated organizations. This podcast is provided for informational and educational purposes only. While every effort is made to ensure accuracy, SLC Faculty Local 417 makes no representations or warranties of any kind, express or implied, about the completeness, reliability, or suitability of the information shared. Any reliance placed on such information is strictly at the listener's own risk. Music and sound effects used in this podcast are licensed or royalty-free. We respect copyright law and encourage our listeners do the same.